So welcome everyone to the 207th weekly MLP Drawing School live critique stream.
Woo!
Woo! Today we have the ever Allie Claw.
Oh, hello. How's it going?
Wait, can she be anything else than Allie?
I could be the enemy.
Lion Man.
Aha!
Haha.
We also got Fluffy's Eye.
Hello, I'm the fluffiest person, except when it's Ali.
Or like
Like, have you seen
pencil
her?
case.
Depends how much humidity's in the air.
Yeah.
There's also a Pixie Nop.
Hello.
Ah!
Guest starring like a
Ah.
bunch of birds.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And of course, we cannot forget the ever awesome dead, the living, you can't really claim what he is, but he is the living dead.
Schrodinger's zombie.
Pretty much.
That was his practice fart sound. Oh no, son.
Wait.
I went through elementary school and Boy Scouts and stuff. Trust me, my practice fart sound much better. You got to get both hands cupped and get the slightly loose lips so you can get a vibration sound going. It's great.
Alright, we are no longer.
I'm a little bit
drawing
lost here.
school. We are the sound effects school. Today's first class is fake farting.
So we're MLP fully school?
Yes.
I'm okay with this. Alright, let's kick this off. Hello, Gallon and Maze, who's
Hello.
everywhere.
Mazes
Maze
are
is
all seeing.
literally in like every server I'm in.
They're the all-seeing AI. They're just always here, always watching.
They know. Alright, so first picture up. It was submitted in our chat by Embroidered Equations. Something like that. Yeah, Embroidered Equations.
I always read it as equations. In my head, I don't know why.
Let's stick it in Google and see what Google says. I think this works, right?
Embroidered
know.
equations. As the resident Aussie, I feel like I have some kind of
Can you add more H's into it?
yeah. That's the word. That's how you pronounce it. Jeez.
Wait, where's the Google Speak thing?
It's either equations or equations.
Equation. Are we French now?
I think
Equation.
I know there are like ti words that make the same sound, and
Yeah.
I know it makes sense. But whenever I see the name, my brain just thinks that should be SI. But I don't know if that's actually true. It's probably not true. My brain just says that says equations, but it's just a silly brain thing. If we've determined anything on MLPDS, it's that our brains are silly. Ours specifically.
We're off to a great silly start right now. It's just proof.
Yeah, we haven't even started this work. We've just instead been silly. So far.
The MLPDS language school.
Embroidered equations.
There we go. Only people in the Picarto got to hear that.
I heard it.
I heard like a very faint thing through your mic.
All right, so we're gonna do their horse. They're asking about how to make the tail look more like plastic, or the metal plates actually look like metal rather than gray patches, or how to get the shading on the legs to work properly. They're supposed to kind of look like half melted super dupers, hence the weird blobs of semi-transparency.
I'm gonna assume super duper also means lava lamp.
Yeah,
That's
Super,
the vibe
super
I'm getting.
dupers are icy balls.
So
Wait,
these are hot blobs of wax, basically.
sorry, icy.
Wait,
What?
Icy pole, like a tube of plastic that has like frozen cordial in it.
A lollipop? Ice
all right,
lolly,
let's get our
maybe?
Google on. Because I
It's
thought
what,
it was
it's what
lava lamp.
Americans
sorry.
call a popsicle. And-
yeah,
And we over here call an ice lolly.
yep, that'd be it.
Anyway,
So the
Oh.
popsicle, but melted popsicle. Okay, this
Okay.
actually helps a lot because the first thing I would say is that you should. I wouldn't draw a blobby if it's supposed to be like ice. I would make them more rigid. Like you can have melted juice in between, but I think this like the ice would still be a bit more rigid in the middle.
oh, is it
even
not actually a
following the
lava lamp?
pattern.
No,
No,
it's a
it's not.
super duper.
Oh, I thought it was just. There was just Pixie saying words, or embroidered saying words.
I assumed that as well, but clearly. Here, I found this on the internet because the internet. Now
Oh,
we can all
it's
truly learn what a super duper is.
it's because they posted the picture and then Maze posted some pictures of lava lamps, so I thought it was like a personification of a lava lamp.
Me as well. So I think I still go with my idea of you can still have the juices, but have the ice part more rigid. Because I think even if you look at melted icy pops, they're kind of way more rigid and crystally rock-like. I mean, it can melt by rounding, but right now, Maze was saying that in chat. To me, it looks like blobs, like a lava lamp. So it's like we're missing that ice. And on top of that, so something you can do is, I mean, the biggest thing for all the questions you have, I have 2 words: material studies. Look up what the materials look like. Really observe what they do. Like, see the difference of a hard plastic, a shiny plastic, a matte plastic. What kind of plastic do you want? Same goes for metal, a really polished one, you know, like a... Again, they can come in all different types of texture. And the best thing that you can do to help is by looking up what kind of materials. You know, there's artist studies on the internet. People do them all the time, and they're called material studies, but they could do like 20 materials, but they're all in the shape of balls, and they try to recreate the materials realistically as possible, but in a ball shape. It's really interesting to look at, really fascinating, and really helpful to study as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Go if you're looking for a certain, like, hey, I want it to look like metal. Just Google metal.
Yeah. So I think part of it is the actual like drawing and line work, and part of it is the shading, which I'll get onto in a second. I was just sort of experimenting with like a general like how to sort of interpret the sketch to, because what I think you're doing is like the art, because I initially thought like, okay, so like this is like a chest piece of armor, right? But which I think is because this bridge here is so small, but I think it's what you've done, if I'm looking at it correctly, is that all of this is like a piece of armor, and then like these legs are like attached to that. So part of it is a shape design, and I'm not the best at this, but I have done a number of like fantasy like RPG characters and have had to draw armor a bunch, so like I at least have some like foray into this. I think the fact that this is, especially like this, where it's like this is a kind of a weird shape, it just looks like spots on the pony's body, like that's just like the painting pattern they have. I'm not sure if this like goes behind the thigh, or if it's like an actual piece of armor. So it's like it's a matter of the shape and just like working out like, okay, if this is like a general pony shaped body form sitting in like a cup of armor that has these legs attached, like this is how you wanna figure that out. And then that can help translate better to what you're actually trying to show visually in the drawing. And the other thing is the shading. Like I can see obviously you're trying to show like the shape of the shading and everything, but I think you've got a bit of practice to do to actually work out how to show that depth. Because like I see the shading, especially like here, like it just continues on over the body. There's no like hard edge to the armor other than like the outline and then this little bit of shading here. There's nothing really saying, hey, these are separate objects. And if you were to draw, let's see if I do that sort of part. It's like, okay, here's a piece of armor, whatever, just random armor shape. It's got to have a separate sort of identity from the body. So here it's got to have like an edge. this is obviously smaller details, but it is worth going in and making sure you get those smaller details rather than working zoomed out and stuff. And secondly, if we have the shading going on, and I'm just doing it sort of like cell shaded form, but it would obviously be softer. And then the armor would have sort of like a different profile, if that makes sense. The armor is, well, it's not flat, it's obviously a round thing that's been around the thigh, but it's going to have a different sort of profile because it's metal reflective and not this. Well, I don't know if this is an actual like pony, like it's got like a coat or anything, or if it's also like plasticky. But if you want it to look like a separate object, especially made of a different material, then it's a case of how to show that. And like Ali said, like going and looking up like how people interpret materials, and how they have like different ways of showing light shining on them and shadows is definitely worthwhile there.
Even if it's like not a separate piece sitting on top, if it's like a hybrid metal, anything, changing the having a little bit of a bump there or something like that would be helpful in doing the material studies. Would help represent that it is metal.
Can do as well. Yeah. One other thing can do, and this isn't like gonna make the picture. Like those other things are more important than this, but like lighting as well. Like on this rest of the thing, I think a softer lighting on this material would work. And then on the armor, you want to have that just. If I can get back to my pen in any way, shape, or form. No, that's the same color. You want to have the armor. Where's my pen? Be nice and shiny. If this is metal, you want to have a nice like harsh, thin shine going on here. Like even just like haphazardly doing this, it's like, oh yeah, look, it's shiny. I can see that it's shiny. And the same with the legs as well. If this is like glass, let's even go for a bigger pan. Let's make it like slightly pink color maybe. There we go. And then it's like, hey, here's some like shine on this glass, clear plastic, whatever it is. And so you can do that, and it will help show that it is a like container with stuff inside it, especially if that those highlights go over the top of the contents. It visually differentiates and defines them.
Another thing I like to do, especially if it's a hollow plastic, besides with these shines, fluffy showing off, you also draw the inside. I know that may seem weird, but say if we're looking down the tube,
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Here's the tube. Now, the tube is hollow, but it still has thickness around the edges. So, we'd see that, like this hatching, that's all empty. But we'd still see the outline of the inside as well as the outline of the outside. So what I did here in yellow was you could go around and show just how it all connects, like here's your tubing, so you have this outside layer, but then you have the inside layer where it becomes hollow, and that's when all your icy bits can float around in. Kind of like you're drawing a clear bottle or a glass. Sometimes having two defining lines really helps. We can all draw a glass like this, right? But sometimes it doesn't really feel like a glass until like, oh, you have a little... I mean, I'm using a really thick pen right here. But the idea is to demonstrate the two layers, the two walls, the full picture of what if I bisected this glass, it would look like this. If I cut it right in half, it wouldn't just be a line, it would have the two, because looking through the glass is also invisible. So the same thing for looking through clear plastic.
I'm trying to sort of show this here, but it required me erasing everything around. So I don't think there's a selection tool like a magic wand in this program. But when you have a round object like this, forgive me if this is sort of the point you were trying to make. When you have a round object, or you're looking at something that has sort of varying angles, the closer towards the edge, this is true on like water surfaces as well, closer to the edge, you're seeing like more of the thing, because actually if I just like draw the top down like Ali did, oh, that was a really weird glitch. Okay. Like if you're looking straight through here, you've got like this tiny thin piece of plastic and then like this tiny thin piece of plastic. If you're looking through here, you've got like this entire section to look through, so it's like the light is trying to pass through this entire wall of plastic, and it's thus being like blocked, so it's going to be much more opaque, if not completely opaque. Well, yes. So it's a matter of stuff being thicker towards the edge, as you can see here in this one that I drew, than it is in the middle. So that's like a small detail that can help. So like making the plastic look a little bit thicker towards the edges.
I think with this one, I'm a little bit confused about exactly where the lighting is from. Like, it looks like these bits of the legs are sort of emanating light. But if they were, I'd sort of expect this whole underside to be lit up because it's being directly shined on from the...
And not all of them are. They're clearly sort of going from like a purple to a magenta, which is why I think it reminded me of lava lamps, because it's like that's like the light changes hue as it goes up.
Definitely. Yeah, it's coming down from below as it sort of, the tail indicates this area around the ear probably wouldn't be as in shadow. Even this area underneath the ear might be in a bit more shadow, stuff like that. But that's just stuff you'll pick up as you keep drawing, keep looking at references, and
yeah.
I think the major challenge here is that this is a texturally heavy piece. There's a lot of different things going on and a lot of challenges to overcome. So I think this is something that you can definitely build up to and work on as you study the different parts and what exactly you want from those parts. You know, what kind of textures you want. But this is definitely a challenge. There's a lot going on here, and just give yourself the time to figure out each element. I think that's really important.
Yes.
And give yourself the credit on, you know, doing up a really interesting drawing, because it sort of pushes what I've seen from you. I'm really happy you've done something like this.
All right.
Fun.
Yeah.
So move on to our next picture.
Just quick, what I also did with the legs was I didn't feel like it was right that, unless they're specifically standing in a pose, to have the back leg crossing over the one in front of it, or the front leg on that side. Doesn't make much sense, because as the pony's walking, the legs aren't really going to be like, the back legs aren't going to be spread out to the side. They're going to be walking sort of in a line. So you're going to have two planes, one for the back legs, one for the front. So I initially thought that this leg was one of the front legs, which is why I started at the beginning drawing it coming down to this plane. Because typically when the pony's walking, they're not gonna walk on one side like you've got them here. They're gonna be walking. So it's sort of okay because they've got one leg still sort of on the ground. When they walk, the legs sort of go in diagonals. That way they're not gonna fall over as soon as they lift both legs on one side up. But I wasn't so much critiquing the pose as it was having the leg meet behind this leg. I think there is like a point in the walk cycle where this happens, where like the back leg will come down, and then next this leg will come up. But I think before the pony lifts this leg needs to come down. So it's a study of walk cycles. Like definitely look at like pony walk cycle things, and look at actual horse walk cycles, like slow down, or like just individual like screenshots of the stages of the pose. It can really help. It is a tricky thing, but it helps to sort of figure out. And it was just a small detail. I sort of like, oh, why is this leg like crossing over there? You know? Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Where would that be?
Not posted yet.
Oh.
It's in our imaginations.
Quiet phone. All right, Gallon's picture. Just posted at the bottom.
Oh.
So, didn't finish this in time for stream, but I've done two faces of the expressions. I'm trying to improve my hair, making it more shiny, as well as get better at angles, lighting, and shapes. How can I push further in the 3D-ness of my drawing? I can't really think of any specific questions. Maybe if there's just more, or if there's just better ways to push the expression more, or what can I do for more advanced shading and texture? First of all, your expressions are great. Subtle expressions are very hard to pull off, and you're definitely pulling off to an extent.
Yeah, I was gonna say first off, I love to see you experimenting. I think that's super duper cool that you're
Mm.
trying new things, and I think I think you're doing a good job of trying to teach yourself and learn. And secondly, yes, I love your expressions. They're very dynamic, and I think each put across a really good, like emotional expression. So you're doing real well. Yeah.
Mm.
Let's see. So I think your hair is pretty good. Like I love that it's like you've got the texture there, but it's subtle enough that it's not like destroying the picture with like a texture brush. Like it's kind of just like nice and soft. Like I could just
Mm.
imagine rubbing my hand, just like soft mane, stroke it, stroke it. And if you even got like the little like trailing bits, like those are really good. You could even have like let's see if I can get a brush that's not like super thick. You can even take like a blue and just have like nope, have like some more training bits like in this. Like, oh hey, it's a bit of mane that's sort of like coming off. I don't know. Worth experimenting with. See.
Yeah, if you're looking to play with expressions more, there's plenty of people who've done massive expression sheets online. They're good to play off as far as trying to pick out elements that are creating that expression, especially with MLP where you're sort of limited. You've added more to yours because given your character eyebrows, and that really helps the expression.
Mm. Like the MLP ponies do it when they're making particular expressions, but like I think when the eye is fully open, it like merges with the eyebrow. But it is good to show. It is good to do. I think for any artist to like, it's all well and good to study the show style, but I think if you want to go ahead and add more expressiveness, I definitely think adding eyebrows is a good strategy.
Mhm. I also I also have a really short, boring answer that everyone hates to hear. But if you do want to dig more into advanced shading and texturing, studying other artists,
Mm.
artists that haven't been like were born hundreds of years ago, artists that were born, 20 years ago, just
Artists
doing
that were born
studies,
yesterday, God,
master
they're
studies.
prodigies.
Yeah, artists that were born yesterday. But
Newborn with a tablet.
really like study artists you hate, do studies of artists you love, do study of artists
Yeah.
you've never heard of, do studies of artists that do humans, that do animals, that do robots.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get better, master studies. That is like
And
Hmm.
the key to learning beyond the basics.
yeah, and if I were to give you something to like what to sort of think about next, I would say like think about like what is the hair doing to form this shape? Because like obviously this is like a shape that we would draw in our like sort of like lined 2D art that you've translated to being in like 3D with a texture, and I think you've done an excellent job of getting like the harshes, like the softs and the sharps down. But it's a case of it still in like a very specific shape, which when we're drawing like cartoon stuff, it's like okay, because that is like representing like how hair would be. Like if you look at like an anime character with like the spiky doos, that's like it's representing strands of hair, and we see like the ponies with the hairstyles, they're very specific shapes and lines. They're representing like the main being in a particular style, and we can understand what that means and what that's showing, and even replicate it. But then when we're translating it into 3D, it doesn't always make as much sense to have like the line. Like this is, I don't have the good color. Like this is very like you can see these black lines that I can't draw over because the angle of my tablet. Like that's it's absolutely fine that you've got this still like the way this is like a mane that comes down like this and then it like flops over. Like I love that. It's a case of like working out like what that is and how we've represented it in the past and how might we instead represent it as like a 3D painting. Like how would it look if it was actually in real life and this was a pony who had this long like wall of hair coming out that was going this way. Like it might not necessarily fall into such a rigid order, if that makes sense. So that might be like a point of like what to think about next when you're sort of experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that your style and this sheet in particular reminds me a lot of vanilla ghosties.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be good to take a look at some of their stuff and see how they handle things like hair and things like the color relationships inside each drawing. there's definitely some more places to push, but these is really good.
Yeah, it's like a good news, bad news moment. It's like good news, you've learned so much, and you've really taken leaps and bounds since we've first seen art from you. You're learning at such a rapid rate. The bad news is you're getting into the nitty gritty, and that stuff just takes a little longer because it's a quest for you to figure out what you want to draw, and a quest for you to learn how to draw different things so you can decide what to draw. It seems like it'll be slow
Yeah.
at times, but
The more you learn
really
with art, the
have.
more there is to learn.
Yeah, it's especially when into the nitty gritty because for anatomy it can be 1,000 different ways to do something. For shading, 1,000.
Yeah.
For texturing, 1,000 different ways, and
Absolutely.
you're trying to find which combination works for you.
Yeah, like that. It's sort of something that's hard to explain sometimes. But art experience is like I was sort of saying this in the channel the other day. Like it's not. Actually, it might not have been in the MLPDS. I can't remember which server it was in, but it's like art experience isn't like you just like learn in like an experience bar sort of way. I think it was in the MLPDS, but it's like art is just like 1,000, 10,000 lessons, like tiny little experiences, tiny little skills. It's like, oh, I picked up this little trick of like how to draw eyes, that combined with the other like 23 different tricks for drawing eyes allows me to draw an eye. Like each and every single way you know how to place a line is an art experience, is a piece of art wisdom, and it's about learning just like 100,000 of those to know how to put together a thing. And so like there's just an infinite number of different combinations of those, and that's what gives people's art like distinct styles and everything. So yeah, what Andy's saying is very true. Like once you go through sort of like the leaps and bounds and growth spurts of like learning the very basics, it can become like, okay, like where do I go from here? And it's a case of like building very specific like portfolios of abilities in art, and it's hard to know like where to go and what to pull together.
It's also a very mental battle because if you're just following that route of I want to be better at art, that's very hard to define. You have to find what you want to draw. I know they sound like the exact same thing, but better in art is vague, but figuring out what you want to get
Yes.
better at is a goal that you can work towards.
Yeah,
It's something you
yeah.
can research, something you can look into. And that's
Yeah.
I think the hardest, especially when you can't think of questions, like then find a question. Ask yourself questions. Ask, just so many questions. It's all about discovery, and questions are the key to discovery.
Yeah. They say, I don't know if my style is interesting or not, and I'm not sure if it stands out enough. I definitely think your art is interesting. I also want to say, like, most artists don't really, like, you can recognize your own work, Sean. You put all this time and effort into building up each little shape that you use and each little, like, thing that you typically stand for in your art, like how you, like, do, like, standards, what I'm saying, like how you do shading, how you do coloring, everything. Like, you recognize how you do things because it takes time to build up how you do them. But I think most artists won't really know. Like I have a super distinct style. Like, but like people will tell you, and it's like oh, I can recognize. Like people tell me all the time, like I can recognize your style like instantly. And it's like I didn't realize. I think it's not uncommon to feel that way. To feel I don't know if my style is interesting, or recognizable. But then it is in its own little way. It's the same way like a person's interesting. I can't explain a person's face. Like if the police stopped me on that, hey, can you describe this person's face for this like sketch artist? Like I wouldn't be able to. I don't know how to be like, well, their nose was a nose, but like, and I wouldn't know how exactly to explain like my style and how it's different from someone else's style. But at the same time, if I saw them, they'd be recognizable. And it's the same way. Like if I saw someone's face, I'd recognize that face if I've seen it before. And if I see Gallon art, I would recognize the Gallon art. because it's your style, but it's just not easy to like quantify that.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I try to do when I do studies. Is I'll look at someone like Delaris and I'll be like, all right, how does their head shape differ from normal head shapes? And then I'll spend an hour redrawing some of their stuff and focusing on the head shape, and then I can be like, oh, it like kind of has these specific curves, and I might break down some of their muzzles or some of how Vanilla Ghosties does shading or something like that. And then like through studying it and looking at specific pieces of their work and specific parts of their work and aspects of it, I'll be like, I like this part, I like how they do this, I don't like how they do this, and slowly build up a collection of the things that I like. And as you do that more and more, it's just like over the weeks, over the months, as you do more and more art, you'll find more about which parts you like.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna butt in one last time. And the sentence you're saying here, you don't know if your style is interesting or not, and you don't know if it stands out enough. I'm gonna say, I know it's hard to not think about that, but don't think about this. It's about what you want. Yes, I agree. If you're marketing yourself as a business, it is good to look at trends, it is good to look at what's appealing, and it's good to understand that. But as an artist learning, those are not the questions you should ask. The questions you should ask are more exploratory, are more for yourself, and more about your interests.
Yeah.
Because you will grow.
Yeah, it's. I'm drawing this pony's face. Should I make this line of the underside of the nose like a bit further down than last time, or do it the same way? Like how I just drew this ear randomly. Like, is that a nice shape, or should I redo it? It doesn't matter like what would people want me to do. It's just like, what do you think is right?
It's the hardest question. It's like, do you like it? If you don't like it, what don't you like about it? And what you do like about it is, again, ask those questions. Ask yourself those questions.
All right, yes.
Like this is good.
Yes, if you want to figure out how far you want to go with realism in your drawings, just keep going until you feel you're further enough. That's
Go
up to you.
The uncanny valley. Go to it. It's okay to go to it. Just you'll learn,
And definitely, push it to extremes. And I think also draw 2D stuff as well. And then that way you can sort of decide like what in the moment you're enjoying the most. Like if just like more days you don't feel like doing 2D lined art over the amount of days you feel like doing 3D art, then maybe you could focus a little bit more on 3D art.
All right, let's move on to the next drawing. I think we've beaten that one to the earth.
We got 2 new drawings from the Picato while we were critiquing that one drawing. We're never going to finish. This is the stream that lasts forever.
I'll just say, Gallon, if you want to talk more, MLPDFs will be happy to chat with you more.
All right, bottom left-hand corner. It's by Ander Dragon. Ander, you got questions for us, buddy?
Yeah.
Ander, I recognize that name.
And Llewellyn Slumber. Line up your questions for us.
Yes.
Or whoever asks questions first.
We'll do them both at the same time.
Okay, we'll get the audio mixing ready. Left channel is for
I saw a video of Chris Bingham that did that. Just like they'd have like a video and they would like there was 2 people conversing or like saying just monologuing, but in the 2 different audio channels. Brilliant.
Sir, question about your anatomy, and you want help with it. As far as the anatomy goes, you're pretty much there. It has a little refinement that can be done. So, for instance, things like your legs have got a little wonky. We can either do measuring and comparing to get it there, or we can measure and compare to get it there. Either way, you're measuring and comparing to get it there. So I suggest measuring and comparing.
She's sitting on a diagonal platform. It's easy to do. It's an easy mistake to make.
I mean, my first biggest question whenever somebody asks about anatomy, I'll ask you right back, did you use a reference? If the answer is no, use a reference. If the answer is yes, get more references.
What does anatomy mean to you?
And that is anatomy. It's really have yourself your reference material, especially if you're uncertain about anatomy itself.
Absolutely,
you will learn
100%.
anatomy, but every question you have about anatomy can be got from a reference. And that's why you have multiple references, and you don't just have one reference. It can, using a couple references. Good. I am happy to hear that. I'm really happy to hear that.
Absolutely.
I have a few pony breakdowns and pony images that I really like to have on hand when I draw, because I'll do some stuff, I'll sketch, and then I'll look at my reference and be like, okay, that's how a shoulder works. And even after I've done 30 drawings with the same reference, I'll still look at it and be like, that's how a shoulder works.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. It never as you get more experience with art, it becomes easier to remember and interpret the things you learn through references. it becomes easier to figure things out without relying on them quite as much. But they're always necessary, and they're always important, and they're always helpful. That's the thing. Like I could be the most experienced artist in the world, and never would I draw better on like just winging it than with a reference, no matter how like experienced I was with drawing the thing.
So looking at your Twilight, one of the things your reference would have helped you with is figuring out how to place that ear a bit better. What you've done is, because you've placed it so high, you've raised the entire line of the hair, and that's causing her to have a really, really tall head. Your reference will have it further down because they generally sit on the back 3/4 of that head. So back here. So I've just moved it down. I've also drooped it out only to sort of match her expression. I would just switch the ear styles that you have on both of them, because Rarity's is sort of more hung back. It's in a shameful sort of look, where Twilight's is up and alert. And I would just sort of reverse those just to help carry that expression.
I went ahead and moved Rarity's tail up a bit because you have a little bit of a tail. Just remember, the tail follows the spine all the way through the pony.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it coming out of the butt.
Yeah. Just
No
think
good.
about where the tailbone is. I'm assuming you know that people have a tailbone and where that is. Because it would be the same thing on animals, except there is a tail attached. Looking at that horn. You don't want the horns to be thicker in the middle than at the base. Something to avoid. Let me have a look at that. Oh, never mind. Pieces up. I always feel like Rarity's horn would actually be pointed up a little bit more. I'm trying to interpret this.
Yeah.
I think it'd be like here. It's perfectly okay to like not get something in one go and like build something up to, okay, maybe it's more like this, You don't have to get everything right in one go, so it's good to figure it out.
Yep, sketching and messing about is super good.
And making
And don't
adjustments.
be afraid to be messy. Oh, messy sketches will get you such nice fluidity.
Yes.
Get that energy.
Almost every time before I like start a drawing on, digitally, I'll pull out my sketchbook and I'll have like 2 or 3 pages of just the roughest sketches ever trying to work out,
It's good.
I approve of that. Oh,
Working out
Completely.
bits and pieces and trying to see how things like smush together in different ways. It's good.
Are we ready to slide on to the next one?
yes, sir.
Sure.
All right.
And I believe same thing they said. So anatomy, and I'll ask the same thing. Did you use references if you had struggles? If not, references. If you did, more references.
So it looks like your bodies are actually very well done. It just comes down to how your limbs are done. Seems to fall into the oddness. So go check out your references for limbs, because some of the better ones are what artists have thrown together, and we have a few on our sideboard on our subreddit. But I'll see if I can
Doesn't
just...
help that this is not like a pose that horseback legs should ever be in, but like it's something that we have to sort of like break the anatomy for cartoon purposes, But like, look at what if you have to do that figuring out. Look at what other people have done for that figuring out. Other people have gone through trying to work out how to put anatomy together. So it's always worth looking at other people's wisdom first, and then make your own decisions.
It's interesting. Something that I might comment on is look at like the whole flow of the drawing. So like you look at the changeling up here, and it kind of big line there, and then a bit of like a right angle, and then like there a little bit like pony down here is like kind of interesting. It might be a good idea when you're like starting out, when you're planning the pose, planning how it all flows together, to do something like a big flow line, and then to have things sort of match up more with that, to sort of have a bit more of a smooth
Yeah.
flow.
Action lines. We all like
Yeah.
action lines.
Action lines.
It helps a lot.
So I linked in the chat some good reference materials to help you out. They show a nice skeleton breakdown of how limbs work. Pick and choose or mix all three, doesn't matter. But you'll see they've broken down the limbs into different lengths. Sorry. The damn sneezes sneaking up on you. They've broken the limbs down into skeletons, and so you'll see the front legs are made up of like 5 or 4 different bones, and then the back legs are made up of 3. These are what have guided all of us in getting our legs to where they are and sort of keeping a standard of how they can bend and flex and move, and then knowing where we can sort of break them to cheat and make that hug an extra bit long. And
Yeah. I've noticed something. I don't know if you can see unless LD zooms around here, but the ear sort of comes into the neck. What you want to do is move the ear up a little bit and have it come up, and because this is the cheek. This fluff here is cheek. Like that's what that is, right? So like this is where the cheek, and then you got like the jawline. Well, really the jawline should sort of come down a bit and then flush with the cheek. Maybe not that much, but it's all about balancing stuff. So there's the head, right? And the ear should not be coming down to the neck. It should come up here. So yeah, it's just a case of moving stuff. So I don't know if there's a reason why your pony has the chompy chompers, or if you're just doing like the anime teeth gritting thing. Because remember that ponies are herbivores and they don't have the chompy chompers.
it's how they chew through candy.
Maybe the specific pony does, and that's okay if it's like an OC thing. They got the veggie chompers.
Chompa chomp.
Do you have any further questions for us? I think it's because they're biting the veggies. They aren't grinding. There you go. So they need slightly sharper teeth. No response yet. So let's. The shading looked a bit weird to me too. Okay. Yeah, it does. Your light source is behind them, yet the way you have your light cast on them makes it look like it's in front. And by viewer side of it. And I think that's the problem. So, because you have your source of light all the way back here, everything's going to be casting like a ray around them, and so you'll only be catching edge lights. So you want to take your shadows, not even just invert them, almost redo them because you've lost track of where that light source is. But basically, edge lighting is going to be a friend here. Grab your orange yellow brush and just smack their edges, and everywhere that is going to be touching the sun gets to be king. No, gets to be yellow orange. Things that are overlapped by the body might just lose it, or might just get a very small fringe. So you might only get a very small fringe on the leg here, but then it's going to pick up a larger fringe up here, and then completely disappear down here because, hey, the other leg is covering it.
And we can do, if you're struggling, get like your favorite horse plushie, wait for Celestia to lower the sun most of the way, and then go outside and put the horse plushie down. Or like really any object that you want to study, just put it down and look at how the sun shines.
But a horse plushie would be preferable.
Yes.
Then you can hug it
Reference
afterwards.
purposes. Yeah, and then hug it afterwards. You can enjoy watching the sunset with your favorite horse plushie.
I like getting. I have a little pony figure, and I just get my phone, turn the flashlight on, and then just like move the flashlight around and see how it changes. See how like the light
Good
looks
advice.
different as it shifts over the different forms.
Very, very true.
Slightly less embarrassing than standing outside with the plushie trying to figure out how the lights.
Just holding it up to the sun as
It,
a token.
it depends. If it's like somewhere where people are very obviously going to see you, and B, if so, if you have any shame towards the matter, which I clearly do not.
Does that make sense? Slide in.
Silent sombre.
I will say with the shading stuff, it's hard and it's annoying, and it's just something you pick up over time as you learn more about forms and about how the lighting works. But
Absolutely.
If you're interested in pursuing light and how it dances across objects more, go look into some photography tutorials on doing subject lighting. Photography.
lighting setups.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Photography literally means painting with light, so it's the clue's in the name. Also, I'm amused. I giggled because for some reason I thought you were going to say go and look into the sun.
no, don't do that.
No,
Eyeballs.
that is bad advice. It will not help you understand
My
light.
little pony drawing school does not endorse looking directly at the sun.
That
We
will
take no responsibility.
that will make you worse at art. I can guarantee.
You guys didn't say that nearly quick enough. It needed to sound like an advert. My Little Pony does not condorse.
Staring at the sun may
Mate,
cause death.
I'm an Australian. I can't speak quickly.
Oh. All right, top left-hand corner.
Ooh.
This is by
We didn't get 5 more pictures from the Picasso chat.
only 3. So this is by the idiot on YouTube. So I put Twilight Sparkle as the main character in Dark Souls. This is just a sketch, though. I'm going to add color and stuff. I just wanted to know if this is good, lol. Yeah, so this is...
It's a drawing.
Yeah, this is a great point to ask for critique before you get any further, because it's easy to change stuff at this point. When it's colored, it's a pain in the butt. Even digitally,
Yeah,
it's a pain in the
A
butt.
lot of our advice becomes like, for next time.
So let's...
I quite like your approach with trying to draw Twilight and all the armor. It's a very good idea. I like seeing you get creative with doing this, and I think you've done a good job. I've tried to do similar things before. I don't know whether it was less or more effective. I think you've done a better job than my previous attempts at putting pony in armor has gone. I would say though, it looks like you're drawing pretty small, from just like how the lines look and our experience with pencils. Our time spent with pencils in our lives. So I would say definitely draw bigger. Like just try getting a bigger piece of paper, a bigger drawing on the page, whatever. Just try and really get the size in there. Like you don't need to like get like a full A2 piece of paper and do, like full arm sweeps across the page. Like just like make sure you're using like the whole page. Of a decent like A4 or something, because like you want to make sure that you have enough room. Because what I'm seeing here is like if I was working on your picture and let's say I had like a really fine pencil, which I do, and took this and I took like a kneaded eraser to it and mostly erased everything and then went in like trying to add super fine detail. Like I could make the lines look nice and crisp, but like I wouldn't be able to like really add that much in the way of fine detail on how the armor looks and overlaps and whatnot, because you really can't do much experimentation when it's so small, because there's only so much you can do when your lines are like proportionately thick to the drawing you're doing. And so if you're doing it bigger, you have much more room to work with figuring stuff out. And that's what you should be doing with the sketch stage, getting messy, like really just scribbling it out, like feeling that form, and then just experimenting with the armor. And if, this piece doesn't look good, rub it out and try again. Maybe get like a different piece of paper on the side. Try drawing the specific piece of armor plate, and then try drawing it again on your pony if you feel like it works well, and just stuff like that to really figure it out. But I think the first step of that is definitely giving yourself more room to work with.
Yeah. If you're drawing complicated things small, it forces you to be careful, and in the early stages, it's good to do the opposite, to be all loose and flowy and sketchy, and it lets you do more flowing poses.
If you were just doing just like a simplistic pony with like no real detail going on, then it can work enough small, but it'd still be beneficial to draw it bigger. Like you're not gaining anything at any time for drawing really small, unless you're specifically just trying to draw like little like just silly little scribbles and stuff.
Or thumbnailing.
Yeah, thumbnailing is what I was going to say as well. Yeah, just making it bigger, getting that detail in, working it out. Being messy, and thumbnailing is a good thing to do. Like draw a picture, maybe like even smaller than this, but like literally just like a stick figure of a pony to like figure out the pose, and then this one's pretty simple. So I wouldn't say, how dare you not thumbnail for this? Like it's fine. But if you've got like a more complicated stuff going on, like an action scene or something, thumbnailing can be super duper helpful. And then you do an under sketch, keep it messy, keep it loose, like what Ali's doing right now, and then you go through and you just add detail, add layers and layers of detail on top of one another.
All right. Shall we move on to the next one?
I guess so.
Sure.
Do. It's a Luna.
Yeah.
What a pretty.
This one is by Relic Slade. Morning and happy Valentine's Day. Smiley face.
Happy Valentine's Day for a week.
We're not late to it at all.
We aren't late. This is normal.
How did you guys spend Valentine's Day? I cuddled plushies a lot.
I celebrate the day after and buy all the discount chocolate.
Yeah, you were telling me about this. Your chocolate
It's-
day.
It's my brother's birthday, so we went and had a swim.
Ooh,
Nice.
sounds fun.
Is it warm there?
It's way too bloody hot. Oh my god. Please
I haven't.
stop
I
pictures of-
mean, as I was saying to Ali earlier, it's been raining here enough that I could just go outside and swim.
Yeah, I can definitely see Maze mention like the wings shaped to show off the cutie mark.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up this weird, interesting kind of shape.
But also lift the tail up the starting position just a bit, just so it comes off the spine. The royal sisters, well, actually, all the princesses when they're fully grown up and have finished being watered in the kingdom, they all tend to have very long wings too. The show, I don't think, ever makes them stick off the butt, but I mean,
I think they
they're
do in the
huge.
movie because I think most characters that have wings in the movie stick off a little bit. They're also pointed further upwards as well.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure, like at least, I'm sure Celestia's wings go off her body. Maybe Luna's too. I
I
can't
think they
really
just
remember.
stretch out the body for the most part.
Yeah, because they're just long, tall ponies. But it
Long.
makes sense, and definitely there are a lot of sources that will show them with wings going like straight off the body because they're super long wings.
Yeah.
Those magic alicorn wings.
Doesn't hurt to do something like that. Just, stretch them out a
Right.
bit. Give them some character.
We're wondering, we're sitting here wondering, do the even though it's something we should be familiar with the show, we're wondering, do Celestia and Luna's wings go off of their body? What's good for doing that? Looking at references every time.
Who would
Every
do
second.
that? Madness.
Yeah, the folded wings sort of go ever so slightly off of the body, but like they're more pointed upwards, so like they don't like shoot out behind them, but they're at an angle, so like we can still see the cutie mark.
And Maze asked the question: does off the body mean so? Like this is the line of like the whole
Yes.
rump, and
Or-
it's
Yeah.
the wings being like this, like following that line exactly. If you sort of on the body.
So in the show,
then
they'd sort of be in the show they sort of look like this.
Yeah.
They're like this shape. So you have like the small feather, medium feather, big feather. Actually, with the alicorn wings, it's a little bit different. But yeah, they have more feathers.
Comes off of the main body shape.
Yeah. So in the movie style, like pretty much all winged ponies have this. The wings are like pointed upwards slightly and poke off of the body a little bit. Whereas in the show style, they are very much like tucked within the body silhouette, and they're sort of rounder as well. The
Mm.
movie gives them more like a pointy wing shape.
I think that's about all I have for this one. How about anyone else?
Nope.
Yeah, I think.
Alright. Well, I'm happy Luna loves us. And let's move on to the next
cute
horse.
picture.
Next horse. This is by Pufindi. Critique, please. Also, for the stream I set up challenge. They put no spaces between those words, so I had to try and go quickly.
I think we asked them to do a little bit more of an interesting dynamic-y post.
Yeah, we said background.
Oh, background. Okay.
Yes. They did mention, yes, they completely forgot the tail. Whoops.
It happens.
I do that.
My
Tail,
suggestion is
horn, whatever.
go in after the fact and like put a crab off in the background running away with it. It'll be great.
I love it. That's great. That's headcanon now.
Brilliant.
Like it's gotta be like, oh, where's my pen gone? It's gotta be right over here. It's gonna have like a little tiny crab. It's like, oh, fan distance. This is a super cute pony. I love the mane. So floofy.
Yeah. The way they place their eyes, it sort of gives a sad, because they're curved down and the way the brows curve or like curl down. It's sort of that sad,
it's like a
Fluttershy look.
It's like a sort of kind, sympathetic sort of look.
Yeah, it's very soft.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not bad. It's just an observation. You have really made a very long neck though. Comparative to the body, like because your chest is ending here or starting there, depending on how you look at it. Your neck has gone almost half the length of the chest up past there. I would just take her head and bring her back down to earth a bit. Yeah, just here. I got a selection tool, don't I? Yeah. We're just gonna take this. Oh no, wrong layer.
Abort.
Just a snip right off the top, cloud and all.
Brilliant.
For to take her head and just down just a bit. There we go.
Only the highest quality edits in the MLP Drawing School.
With Photoshop prize.
Listen, draw pile is OP. It needed to be nerfed.
It's really like something. I feel like I always suggest this, but like something that I find really helps with like general kind of anatomy is just like gesture sketching. So like looking at other people's stuff and trying to setting yourself a timer for like a minute and try to redraw it, and then like do that a bunch, and then like 2 minutes to try to redraw it, and 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then like just forcing yourself to be quick. For me at least, forces me to get a better ingrained sense of where things are positioned and how big to make things and how much to separate things and keep them in the same place and stuff.
Yeah.
Alright, so we've got them twice now to do drastic changes to their next picture. What can we do this time? Multiple characters? Interaction. Interaction.
Oh no.
Take your chest flute and pump it up to just like 1 million.
Like so other creatures are stuck in it?
Yeah, so the chest flute becomes so intense that its mass, its magnetic, just gravity pulls in planets and it sticks everything in the fluff, and it consumes things like a black hole and grows to become an all-universe consuming fluff.
That sounds horrible.
Eldritch fluff god.
This is secretly myself and Cuban's case's plan. This is the fluffening.
Oh, so you're just trying to recruit more monsters. to fluff.
The going around fluffing everything was actually just a diversion while our fluff universe consuming super weapon was in development.
But in all seriousness, I highly suggest giving character interaction with either other characters or other things happening around them. Because we've seen standing pose, we've seen lying down pose, but your characters are alone inside of a world. And let's give them some friends. Maybe chase a butterfly, build a snow fort, fight the Eldridge Fluff God, something. Bring the picture to life.
I'm almost tempted to just like do more like bad edits and just like pull the head all the way down to the sand and then just like draw them in like a sand mermaid. No. I do have a minor point. I love your like swishy ocean water highlights. So those are really cool. I don't know if you did that with a brush or whatever, or if you just did it yourself. It looks like you probably did it yourself. Just on how the lines look. Either way, it's done very nicely. I will say though, the underlying pattern, this like sort of hexagon looking, this like mosaic is the word I was looking for there. This is like clearly it doesn't follow like the sort of orientation like the swishy water lines do, because those at least look like we're looking down at the water and it's going off into the horizon. Or like it's flat, like it's sort of pointed away from us. But these ones here look like it's just like a surface that we're looking straight onto, as if it's like a wall, you know. So I would just try to give that the same treatment as you did the swishy lines. And if it is troubling to do that, what you can do as a little cheat, most drawing programs will have this, is you can just do the texture full screen and then do like a perspective warp to have it go off into the distance. It does need to be pretty wide though, because often the distance part needs to like meet the entire horizon, and then the frontal part will just be dragged outwards like you're looking at a sheet of paper sideways. But then at least it will be in the right orientation.
I will say the first thing that I looked at when I saw this was sort of the shoulders. Just keep an eye on where those are positioned, because like in your drawing, you brought them really close together, and I'm guessing you brought them closer together so that you could get this kind of a hooves together pose. But it's not a big drama to kind of keep them separate and then have them like curve in, and like just think about the where this whole like rib cagey kind of thing is. You don't need to go super in depth. It's like having a bit of an idea of the underlying shape of things under the chest. And Ali, those sketches are too good. You're not allowed to be this good in the drawing streams.
Listen, I'm just using the advice you gave. It's all in gesture sketching.
Yeah.
Anyone can do this. It is a mess. This is a mess right here. But you guys get the flow.
It builds the form, but you gotta start with just like sketchy lines that don't mean anything to build that form off of.
If you want a real challenge, try to do gesture sketching without picking up your pen or pencil or whatever you're using.
Yeah.
Leave it on the desk. Do it with your mind.
Do it with your mind. No, like once you put it to the page, just keep going until like your timer's done. And that'll really teach you a lot.
It's probably not going to be like the best technique for making up, but at the very least it gives you an understanding of how. You okay there?
Yep.
Oh no.
We're all good.
It gives you an understanding of like building up sketches in a messy way and not relying too much, and then you can go back to your actual like under sketching and building up more neatly, but with an understanding of being loose and having that gesture feel.
I think
it's like these aren't like super amazingly clean and all that sort of stuff, but what they are is like really
expressive
good teaching tools, and you learn a lot from doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I
learning
think
how you break down things.
Yeah. Oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, I think there's something that often gets overlooked, is that not only should be messy, but you need to learn how to read mess. And I know I've tried to get people to gesture sketch before, and they're like, it makes no sense, I don't understand what I'm doing. It's like, well, you need to learn to understand what a mess is and how to control a mess, but still be messy. It's a delicate practice of letting go, but also training your eye. That's a whole other part of art. Is training your eye to see.
Those are your two sort of experience bars. I know I said earlier those don't exist, but if you were to sort of establish art as like your sort of general level experience, it's your skill and your analytical eye are the two things. So yeah, training up your ability to see is 100% just as much a skill to build on as your ability to draw. And like I can look at the like Ali's sketch here, especially this bottom one, and just immediately understand like the form of this pony. But I understand that some other people might be able to be like, "Oh, there's so many lines. How do I know which ones to follow?" But like, it's a case of understanding how to build that up.
And something that really helps with that is those lines of action. Like with this bottom one, I can see boom, boom, boom. Those are like kind of the main lines that come to me, and because those are so obvious through it, they really help when I'm trying to like see what this pose is.
Even with the simple sitting pose up here, there's still a line of action. There's still
Yeah.
that swoop.
Otherwise, you've put your drawings just your things. I'm forgetting the word drawing. Your drawings are just going to end up looking like sort of box and stiff. And so even if it is something plain like sitting, if you have an action line, it really helps everything feel more dynamic.
To answer your confusions, embroidered equations, the thing is, a line art is tracing your sketch. You want to refine your sketch to the point where you're just tracing when it comes to the
100%,
line art
100% agree.
Line art isn't about guessing; it's about precision and control.
Yeah. Sketching is about exploring and figuring out and experimenting, and then line art is about, yeah, like I said, about control and precision. It's taking that and then turning into a refined way that lets all of that like messiness and exploration be in the back end. Like, you know, you look at a machine, you don't see all the cogs and gears, you see just like the machine doing its job, but like all the stuff's there, it's just on the back end. You look at a sketch from any accomplished artists, there is going to be messy undersketching, but you know, you don't see that stuff. You see the line art because they did all their exploration and figuring out in the early stage, and then they build it up.
All right, we're ready to move on.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just running back and forth making supper at the same
okay.
time as this.
I understand.
We have so many picks to go.
So many. Next one up is this adorable little... Oh no, I just closed it. Oh, what have I done?
Did you close draw file?
No, I closed the tab I had open. It is by Artistic Fig. Decided to draw a sleepy bug. Any thoughts, suggestion before I work on the background?
See, I thought she was crying. Just my first thought there.
How would you make it look sleepy over crying?
Yeah.
They are very similar kind of poses, kind of expressions.
They are.
One, the expression seats are really good because they
They are
force me
very-
to like draw things that are similar.
Yeah, definitely. And I think yes, they are very similar. I also think what's her name? What's this changing? I forget her name.
Ocellus.
Ocellus often looks like, I think she's just prone to looking sad. she's a little sleepy bug. Expressions are very fun exploration into drawing. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something to look forward to. But just draw like faces. I think sleepy expressions are very. There's definitely lots of different ways to interpret them. But yeah, it's just a case of looking up. Like, you can even just, this is what I usually do. Honestly, I just Google like frustrated expression or anxious expression, like whatever, and you can usually find people drawing like sheets, and usually it'll be like anime character like expression sheets, but that's absolutely fine. Like, or like it'll be cartoon faces, and that's absolutely fine. Like, you can just get people drawing sheets of expressions, and you can translate that to the ponies. I just don't know why this eye isn't being symmetrical. Sorry. Yeah, just like eyes in the sleepy state will be relaxed. The eyelids, like the top ones are drooping, the bottom ones are lifting because the eyes aren't being held open, and the brows sort of falling limp because the pony doesn't have any energy left for keeping those peepers open. And if they're rubbing the face, this is actually an expression I was trying to do for like a Telegram sticker pack. I have a Spirit Wind my OC sticker pack on Telegram, and I was trying to do like a sleepy rubbing the face thing. It's hard to make it not look like super like get this off my cheek. You also don't want them to look, because I think the reason why I thought this, if I were to pinpoint the main reasons why I thought it was a crying expression. One thing, the eye is too tilted and the brow is too tilted. You can definitely have them there, but just they don't need to be super like angled downwards, and you can have more than one angle. Like a brow doesn't have to be this. It can be like this. It doesn't have to necessarily be like one like harsh, like it's going upwards or it's going downwards on this direction. Secondly, oh yeah, and a part of that I think is the under eyelid as well. The eyelids and the brows just need to sort of have this, just be a little bit more relaxed. I think the second thing I think is the hoof. Oops, I zoomed in. Because the shadow here is implying that it's being held off of the face. So like the hoof, there's this gap here, and then the hoof, like the underside, is there. Because that's where the shadow is falling. If the hoof was right against the face, the shadow would instead be like here. It'd be cast by the hoof, but it'd be very like close to it because the hoof is like right on the face, if that makes any sense at all. And there'd be like a sort of contention line as the cheek is being like pushed up. So like if you have your eye sort of here like this, here's the sleepy eye, then there would be sort of like a bit here for where the cheek is sort of being pushed up, if that makes sense. And you can have, I mean, it might be counterproductive, so maybe not, but like a lot of the time when you're like have sleepy eyes, you can have like sort of water in your eyes, so you can sometimes have like little tear, but then it would just make them look more like they're crying. So maybe not.
Looking at the way that Ali's done this, the mouth especially is really good. Like if you just like make, if you practice doing a yawn, and you open your mouth up that big, you can see like it really does kind of like fill up with your face, and it kind of pushes up your cheeks and pushes on your eyes a bit, and all that sort of stuff. And so like try doing the pose you're looking for yourself, and like just feeling your fingers around your face, looking at references and seeing sort of stuff.
I was actually, while drawing that, I was sitting there. I had to mute myself because I kept trying to like fake yawn, and then it made me real yawn, and then it's like.
I've been doing that for like 5 minutes now.
The magical
at any moment of the day, I am probably yawning. I am always asleep.
It's interesting with expressions. Like if you, I've heard people talk about like the old Disney animators and that sort of stuff, and a lot of them like just had or have mirrors sitting like around their drawing desk, or just so that they can like look over, do a pose, do an expression, and then like look at it, be like, all right, cool, let's.
And that's absolutely the best. Like I mentioned, looking up online for like expression sheets, and like the ones I mentioned were like sort of like simplistic cartoon ones and anime ones and stuff, because those are like they're what MLP is. It's taking something from life and then like simplifying it into a stylized cartoon way. But it's typically like MLP a lot of the time. Sometimes there can be moments where expressions are really like emoting, but a lot of the time it's a very simplistic cartoon that just sort of shows things in a very simplistic way. But if you want to go like really deep in, then like Disney, Don Bluth, like all that stuff with like super great expression work. Just like look at how they build the faces and how the expressions bend and stretch across the face. It's really, really good, because the job of those animators is to exaggerate. Like animation is not really like good in one particular frame. It's like it's meant to be like all together in motion, but they've got to show that motion sometimes through, like, it's not going to be like a super dramatic, like full of motion things. If the character's just like, oh, we're drawing this character like frowning at something, like it's not going to, like, there's going to be a little bit of motion, but then they're going to like hold the expression for a bit. So it's all about exaggerating and pushing and stretching those features to really show like how, again, like Pixie mentioned them looking into mirrors and using that with their own faces to understand the expressions. That means looking at the face, seeing like, okay, how are the features stretching, and then just really push that to the extreme. Like that can be a really good exercise if you want to like practice just like get expressions, like be it photos of people's faces, your own face through a mirror, whatever you have to do, and then just practice like exaggerating it to the extreme degree, and then you can dial it back. But once you've done that exaggeration, then it helps teach you like the limits, and it helps teach you like how to make things more dynamic.
When I'm doing expressions, something I always sort of come back to is like how to migrate expressions between different kinds of faces. Ponies have muzzles and all that sort of stuff. We have like normal kind of noses, and so like when I'm looking up references for like cartoon horse poses, I'll look at people doing expressions. I'll look at like simplified cartoony things doing expressions. I'll look at like real horses doing poses and that sort of stuff, and it's a really good skill to be able to train that up, to be able to like learn how to break down real life photos.
Absolutely.
Simplify them a lot.
I mentioned how like it's taking something from real life and putting it into a stylized form. Like that's kind of what I meant. It's like you got it right there, Pixie. It's translating features from one form to another and getting it to sort of fit the medium. So that sort of experimentation is very helpful.
All right, shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Sure thing.
Ali's just casually off to the side drawing.
Side view is really hard. Like, you can't quite capture the expression the same way. Anyway.
Speaking of side view, here's Cake Shake 22. A little work in progress. I still have to add shading, lighting, and a background and details for the 2020 version. You have not asked any questions.
First of all, look at that improvement. Like,
Yeah.
look at that. Claps for the good horse. We love seeing these kind of transformations.
We love seeing like progress pictures, and in fact that is like a focus that I want to do this year, is to go through and like redraw a bunch of odd stuff. So I love seeing other people do it too. we gotta show that hindsight 2020. That's gonna be the name of my project this year. But first, I gotta get out of commission. Hell.
I'm sorry for contributing.
So yeah, things with shading on Nightmare Moon, she's completely black. It's like this is the thing. So this is why, like, and obviously this is like a stylistic design. Like, obviously she's meant to look like very sort of like ethereal and sort of like uncanny because she's got this like pitch black look. She's an eclipsed moon, you know. There's a very specific reason why she has that dark coloring. But something, I mean, it's not like complete black, and I can see you've not used. Actually, you have used complete black, but okay. It's sort of highlighted by the blue of the lines, so it doesn't look like as dark as it is. But it's a case of like in OC designs, anytime anyone who has any experience in art gets an OC and it's like the coat is completely white or completely black, it's like, no, please, no, don't do this. It's usually a bad idea to use straight black in art because you can't shade black because it literally can't get any darker, and you can't highlight white because it literally can't get any whiter. So it's a case of you having to do that like creatively, like, oh, if they got a white coat and you know you have to put highlighting, or maybe they're in like a colored scene, so you can put like color on there to make it look like a highlight, but it's still like really difficult, and you have to like work around, and there's not really much you can do with blacks. You've got all the room in the world for highlighting, but like on a soft body like this, there won't really be much highlighting to do. So it's a case of like shading, but there's not really much you can do. You can do the armor, and you can do where her cutie mark is, and that's kind of it. Because the main is like wistful space energy, which you've done really well, by the way. So that's obviously not going to have any shadow because it doesn't have form, and the legs you can't do any shading on, and it's just the armor and the cutie mark part. So I'm not saying you've done anything wrong by making her black, because that's the color of the character. More, it's just like shading is something that you gotta, for this particular character, understand is a little bit out of the box.
Yeah, any time you do a bit of a flat fill, that flat fill is basically going to be the mid-tone for that part of the body, for that segment of like color. And then, so like, you know, making it, as Fluffy said, a little bit lighter as the flat fill. And then you can come in and you can do some like, you know, light stuff on top of it. And you can do some like darker stuff to shade it. It's good. And beside normal colors, black also just looks a little bit weird. I think.
Like I was saying, that's I think what they were going for with this character in particular. But yeah, you don't want that on your OC really, unless you have the edgiest OC, in which case that's another problem of its own.
Well, I mean, the thing with this OC is that it's not going to go into complex. I mean, this isn't OC, but
yeah.
Nightmare Moon won't go into complex lighting. She's forever in a 2D world. They designed her to be in a 2D world.
Yes.
So her black will never be blacker than the slight little shadow she has maybe on her back leg.
Yeah, and if she ever was going to be in like a 3D setting, obviously the highlights would then take effect. But I'm pretty sure they would make the color of the body model like not completely zero black. It would be like off black, so then there could be some shading.
I mean, this just comes down to the show is not perfect. It's designed for its own
Absolutely.
world, so it's not necessarily meant for your drawing. Though it's always good to color pick, artistic liberties can be needed at times when shading and stuff needs to be taken care of. I guess, anything else? Shall I move on to the next one?
I don't have anything else.
I think once our Zom comes back, we can move on. For now, we can
Don't make it
fun sketch.
Yes.
You know what else is hard to shade? White, because picking colors,
Yeah.
you have to
You
like.
got to be very careful with it because it's too easy to shade. So it's like you can go overboard.
I was talking to an artist one time. They were vending, and I was really sad. I love Rarity, and I was like, "Why do you not have any Rarity prints?" They're like, "Because Rarity is the hardest fucking pony to do." I used their cards for today. Rarity is the hardest pony to do anything with compositionally and using the light balance and all that. 'Cause she's just this blaring white creature.
Yeah, like we focus a lot on values. That's something that like if you it's not something you need to focus on straight away, but if you do anything that, with backgrounds especially, or you're like designing the colors for a character, it is worth taking into account, because it's there's color and then there's value, and it's about making things pop in the brightness rather than just in the actual color. It's not something you usually see, especially if you are working in different colors, but if you put stuff in grayscale, you can see the values. So what we do is we look at art in grayscales so we can distinct this. And like so many times you realize that characters have like really bad combinations of values, especially like together, and it's like, oh, this character's like really light, and then this one's really, like I draw my OC Spirit a lot with like Fluttershy, and she has like really light body values and main values, and the Spirit's like pretty dark. Even Derpy, she's got like a dark-ish body value and then like a super light main value, so it's like they don't combine well. And then you try to put them into a background without anything clashing. It's really difficult.
Well, I'll say keep an eye on where your wings connect, because they're kind of somewhere between the shoulder and the spine, somewhere around about there. Whereas here
So the stream move, did LD come back?
Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
All right. Shall we move to the next one?
Yeah, we were still
Yes,
killing
sir.
time waiting for you to.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're
That's
fine.
okie dokie.
You gotta get those nutritional things in your face.
Next one.
This pun.
Yeah. Next one is by Lemon Schmall, and it's Blushy Baby.
Lemon.
Ooh.
Blue sheep.
Lemon pond.
The Q mark is very silly, although it is sort of superimposed over the body a little bit. I would just, oh look, I still have the black from the Luna, so that's cool. There we go.
Honestly, I think we wouldn't even see the cutie mark because this is the front of the thigh.
Yeah, that is a good point. Once I get a color that I can draw a sketch with, then they'll help with it. I think like you might see like a little bit of it like that. Like that would be about the extent of it. Also the wing I think is coming deliberately like into the body, and that's not necessarily. So I think this I'm making presumptions here, and this might not be true in the slightest, but I feel I'm gonna say that I don't think you did an undersketch, or if you did, then I think you need to just like what you can focus on next is how to undersketch properly. So actually, let's start with what we were talking about earlier on in the show. If you were patient enough to watch this entire thing and go for an action line. So boom, here's an action line, and then we're gonna do the body. So the head is off to the side a little bit because they're looking this way, like what side on that? Okay, hello, and then they got the body, and then the body. So like this could be like a thumbnail, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the whole thing, but like we can figure out how the pony is sitting and how they are posed by doing this, and then we don't have as much to figure out when we're doing line art, and so then that helps us understand the pose a little bit more. It's like, so this is a thumbnail. Obviously, like I would not be able to do very strong details or like figure out how lines are overlapping with such a crude scribble, but the point of the undersketch stage is to figure out the pose and composition, and then once you've got that, then you can start adding detail and refining the body shape and everything. So rather than like lining over your sketch, I think it would be more worthwhile having like a full drawing to go off of. But yeah, that would be my advice for next time, is to just like look at how to build up things. I think starting with an action line and then a thumbnail like I've drawn up here, and then you can even just like drag the thumbnail bigger if you like, but it's also good to just like redraw it, and then just build up. Start with under sketch skeleton, which will pretty much look like this but bigger, and like a little bit more detailed and well placed. Put a little bit more time into it, and then like build that into a very vague body shape, and then gradually refine the body shape. And you'll find your ponies have a lot more structure to them. And then the only other thing is with the line art, when you do get to that stage, you have a very, very like strong, diverse, like varying between the weight of the lines, and that's, I think it's to such an extreme that it sort of loses focus. Like this line doesn't really have any purpose being so much thicker than this line. They're both the same material of the same object in the same, like, in fact the shading of this arm would really be like here, so they would both be like the same sort of line in shadow and everything. And you know, it's stuff like that, like, oh, the body is like really thin here and it's like a little bit thicker here, and then this mane is like extremely thick, and then this line is like blurred for some reason. And it's totally acceptable. I understand that sometimes things get like messy when you're trying to just throw lines on, and that's totally okay. Like, not everyone is going to be super experienced with their program of choice. It's not always easy to control the line weight, but it definitely just scribble a lot. Just get used to drawing shapes. Just do lines, do scribbles, do circles. Figure out how to control that line weight. Get into your muscle memory, and this is not a beginner thing, because this is something that I do, or it's a beginner and all stages after thing, because it's something that I do with every single picture, is to continuously go back to previous parts of your drawing that you've drawn and double check the line weight. So say this is a pretty good line weight for this drawing. I would say go for this sort of weight. So say I was working on this arm and I'm zoomed in, like this is where I'm seeing right now, and I'm drawing this line. Oh, I can't get this line to go right. And then I'd be like, and then I draw it, and then I zoom out, and what I'm seeing is, oh, now suddenly these lines are completely different weights. But if I was drawing this line, I went over and I was like, okay, scribble over this line. Nope, that's too thick. Let's go again. Nope, still too thick. My thinner line. Okay, yeah, that's about right. There we go. That's about right. And so then I go back over, and all I have to do then is just remember the overall pressure that I'm putting into the pen. So it's like, okay, I went for sort of like a medium to heavy pressure. So like, there we go. And now I know like how thickly I'm doing it. So I will do this all the time, because I often will like start the drawing and then my lines will thin out a little bit and then like stay consistent. So I'll usually start with like an ear or something, and I'll go back, and like the ear will be thicker than everything else in the drawings. It's a case of just like remaining consistent. So it would just be going back, looking at a line, and so like I'll let's go up to this ear over here, and then I'll like scribble the line out just to be like, okay, yeah, okay, that's the line weight I'm using. Because sometimes you'll go over and realize, like, so here's this ear, and then you'll go over and be like, okay, am I working with the right line weight? No, I'm working way thicker. And then you can thin out your pen and say, okay, nope, okay, yeah, that's it. And then you go back to what you were drawing, and then you've got your line weight corrected. Or what you can do is just zoom out and say, like, okay, so here's this arm that's too thin, thick. Yeah, so okay, here we go. And then you can just do little scribbles with the same sort of line weight, just like around the picture, and then wherever you are happen to be zoomed in on the canvas, you can have a little reference just to say, okay, I can see this line over there. So while I'm working on this mane here, I can see, oh, look, that line's way too thick. So you have like a little reference. It's just a little trick.
I will say, when you're doing this this whole sketchy gesture, working out how
Yes.
everything flows, wait until fairly late in the process before you start adding the clothing, because like
Oh
the
yeah,
clothing,
absolutely.
if you don't have your underlying anatomy like looking really good and worked out, then
Yeah,
putting the
that
clothes on
is
top
a
just
very, very good point, Betsy. Yes, draw a naked pony first. Draw a naked any character first, and then everyone's like, "Why are you drawing a naked person?" And then you're like, "I haven't drawn the clothes yet." Like, but like that is something that every artist is going to go through if you're drawing in public, because that's what you should do: draw the body first, and then draw the clothes on. Once, I mean, just keep in mind that there will be clothes. like for the body, like, but then it's always easier to add clothes in afterwards than it is to wonder if the body is in correct pose after having drawn the clothes. So it's a very good point.
All right, we ready to move on?
Yes, sir. Is that the last one?
We got one more.
It's one.
Oh, oh.
One more.
It's another.
It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's still a bird. It is by Supermarine Spitfire. I attempted to make a hippogriff sketch. What issues must I correct? Well, I wouldn't say you attempted. You definitely made a hippogriff sketch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that's what it is, so I think you succeeded in that.
It looks like you've used your references, as Maze has pointed out. The tail. The tail has fallen off. I think the crab
that
got
crab.
it too.
The darn tail crab. I did draw it in the background of that other picture, by the way.
I'm gonna have to scroll up and see.
The crab is up there on the beach, running down the beach with the pony's tail. It's just real small in the background. So now it stole his hippogriff's tail as well.
Pin the tail on the
Pony's
hippogriff.
Yeah. It's
Um,
really easy to forget things like that. It's fine.
the size of the hands, hooves, claws, whatever we're calling those friend things. They can
Talons.
Yeah, talons. I think just making sure you measure and compare against the ones you've already laid down will be helpful in this case. So you're plopping one down. Yeah.
I guess the back are hooves, aren't they? And then the front are talons.
Yeah. Just quick
But yeah.
comparisons. But overall, it looks like you must have used a reference because that face looks a lot like his. He's even got his necklace going on and his weird mane.
Yeah, I
It's
think this artist tends to put their people IDs of their references on the image. Which I think
That's
is
very
what they
helpful.
have.
It's very helpful.
Yes, they did. Yeah, multiple references. So yeah, you're definitely on track for doing what you need to be doing. I'd just say keep it up. You know, draw more than one. Draw 40 if it needs to be.
Ooh, I got a
Well.
challenge. Don't draw show style.
Yeah,
Get some volume in there. Get some form. The show style is
Yeah,
very
it's-
flat,
it's-
very 2D, but
Very true.
unlock a third dimension.
and when you look at references, you don't need to follow the references exactly. You can use the references as like inspiration to see how they position things and that sort of stuff, and then draw it in a completely different style.
All right. Is that all we
It's
got
very-
for this? Oh,
I was just adding on to that. It is very useful to it's like show style is an absolutely good base. The movie style is an even better like base standard. But then it's always good to branch out and like try different styles and try interpreting it differently. Look at how other artists have and you're not gonna like look at an artist and immediately understand their style, but like do something that I'd sort of been encouraging for a while now, which is an artist study. Like take someone whose style you love, or who just hey, I think this in passing this artist has a lovely style, and then just take it, get a montage of their pictures, and just like study it, just break it down, just like have the montage open on, the collage open on one side, and then just like and just on your other screen or like on your computer and have like the pictures printed out or on your phone or whatever, or just around your canvas, just do some doodling and just figure out, okay, how do they draw the snoot, how do they draw the ears, how do they draw the legs, what are the shapes they use, and just like understand like the shape and feel at the point, so you can trace over them. It's all just like figuring out how they get the shapes down, because there are so many artists that do so many different things, and it's just a case of like looking at what people have done and to bask in their creativity so that yours can be illuminated.
Yeah, if you look at kind of a little bit of, I think it's been sort of breaking down the shapes of it, the sort of the core shape. So you've got like this big blocky thing to make up the main body, and then to make up this thigh area, you've got this rounded triangle thing.
Yeah,
And I think
it's
looking at like some pony breakdowns. I'll post some in your Reddit thread, but looking at those probably be pretty helpful in trying to like
Absolutely.
do some more of that gesture sketching that we've been talking about.
Yeah. And I think it's a very good idea to look at how to break down ponies into the shapes and everything. Actually, I'll see if I can find it. But there's a album cover on a Forever Free Bernie song. I think it was a Forever Free Bernie song, and it's like a mosaic, like stained glass window of like stylized ponies in like stained glass shape. But the way like the stained glass shape was done on the bodies is basically like they're broken down into these like shapes of the bodies, and I really like it. I saved it in my references folder because I'm like, this is really good for just like looking at it's like the legs built out of like a number of triangles, and like I really like how that look. It just has such a nice shape. So I think it's good. It's good to see those sorts of things every now and then to understand like the breakdowns.
And it's good to keep in mind that different people break things down in different ways as well. It's like the green things are kind of mostly focusing on circles as a way of breaking things down. The darker blue is sort of trying to break things down using bean shapes, and the pink is kind of breaking things down in like triangles and that sort of stuff. It's always going to be a case of look at how others break things down, look at how others look at the core shapes that other people use when they're drawing ponies, and then through trying them out, find what works for you, find what like gets you making the most flowy,
Smooshy,
nice looking ponies. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally agree.
Trying to find this reference.
All right.
There it is.
Well, with that, we're out of art. So I'm going to make an executive decision and call it a day.
Sounds
It's
good
been
to us.
a
For
lot
me.
of art.
Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Have a good one.